How is it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I have returned from the GeoGuessr Americas regional finals in Stockholm, and I thought I would make a quick sort of recap video here, just talking about sort of my thoughts on the tournament and how it went. I plan to do a more in-depth video where I go back over my games and my guesses specifically, kind of game by game. But I'm thinking I'll just do that in another video in a couple of days, and for now I just wanted to kind of talk quickly about my thoughts on the tournament. So where to start? So I guess it all started when I got the auto invite to the tournament, which came probably in December or something, a couple of months after the World Cup, which, as most of you probably know, I participated in, and that was in Stockholm in October. And I didn't play particularly well at the World Cup. I didn't really expect to because of how insane the competition was. But I got auto invited to that tournament based off of merit, I guess, or I was one of the best from the U.S., so they decided to invite me, which was obviously very fortunate. And then they auto invited me not because I played well at the World Cup, but simply because I was at the World Cup. I ended up getting an invite. So realistically, I'm feeling like I maybe don't deserve. I'm feeling some imposter syndrome basically because I'm getting auto invited to all this stuff, and I haven't really had to earn any of it yet. So I get this auto invite to this tournament. I'm like, okay, this is super cool, but do I really deserve to be here? And then obviously they hold these qualifiers like a month later in January to decide who the other 5 players will be, in addition to the 3 auto invites. And they ended up putting a lot of emphasis on diversity of nationalities. So what ended up happening was that there was only 1 American and 1 Canadian who were able to qualify, in addition to the 3 South Americans. So Gingy and Moo made it through the qualifiers, and every other American and Canadian who tried did not make it. So, I'm feeling kind of bad, right? Because, obviously, look, I've played a lot of this game, and I have a pretty good resume, etc. So it's not like I fully don't deserve it, but, I hope you can understand. It's easy for me to feel like I don't deserve to be there because of how many quality players basically are not being given the same chance that I'm being given. So basically, I feel super fortunate to be able to go to this tournament in the first place. And so basically, we all fly to Stockholm on the 20th of February, and the groups are announced shortly before the tournament. And so the groups are fairly unbalanced, I would say. So you had Fao, who got put with the 3 South Americans, and then the other group was me, Moo, CG, and Gingy, which is a much stronger group than Group A. And at first, when I saw this, I was like, well, that sucks, because, I thought my chances of qualifying for the tournament were going to be pretty good, and now it's like, okay, it's not looking as good for me anymore. But then I realized, wait a second, I have not had to earn any of this. I've gotten auto-invited to every tournament I've gone to so far. It's like, if I want to make the World Cup, if I want to qualify for the tournament next September, I need to earn this. I have to do something myself. I have to actually play well and make this happen. So at the end of the day, I think even if the groups were a little unbalanced, I think it's only fair that I actually had to step up. So anyway, so we get to the tournament. There's a couple days at the start. We have a nice dinner with everyone. There's a media day and everything. Again, the treatment in general that we get from the GeoGuessr people is just amazing. I don't know, the way they set up everything and all the facilities and everything is just really quite amazing. I have to give them credit. They treat us super, super well. But anyway, we get to the tournament itself. And so the first day is Group A, so I'm sitting out. So we watch Fao, Orlando, Flyme, and Totem play their group games, and I'm just sitting there feeling nervous, oh my god, this is scary, because tomorrow's on the horizon, and I'm just watching these games. Anyway, so that was a fun day. A lot of interesting, sort of exciting results. Fao barely, obviously he's probably the favorite coming into the tournament, and he barely even got out of the group in the top 2, which was kind of a surprise. But then our day came. And I'm thinking, okay, this is scary because everyone in this group is super, super solid. The situation is I have to finish top 2 if I want to end up in the semifinals and have a chance to win the tournament on the final day. But realistically, what I'm trying to do is finish top 3 in the group out of 4, because even third place would allow me a chance to qualify for the World Cup in September. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what I'm going into the tournament hoping for, is to qualify for the next one. Anything else to me would be kind of a bonus. So, yeah. So I go into my first game and it's against Gingy. And Gingy is probably the strongest person in the group. I mean, he was a bit of a wild card because I've never really played against him other than the one video I did just before the World Cup, in the duels series, and I did beat him in the 3 out of 5, but he showed how strong he is in no move and NMPZ. So I'm coming into this thinking, okay, this is going to be really, really tricky. So I win the moving game, which is the first game of the best of 3. So that's kind of what I felt like I had to do. He was insta-sending, and I didn't get a lot of info in that game, but I was able to get decent enough region guesses to beat him. But then it came to the no move in the NMPZ, and he just outplayed me. And obviously, I came pretty close, but it's at the end of the day, he outclassed me. He's a super, super strong player in those modes. So yeah, it was a tough start because it felt like I had a chance to beat him, but he was too strong in the end. So I'm 0-1, and then I go into my match against Moo. Now Moo is another formidable player, another one who I just about beat in my duels series, but he played like not super well. He definitely played below his potential in my video with him. So he's out for blood. Obviously, this is the real thing. It's a whole different kettle of fish. So again, we go into the games, and my match with Moo was absolutely crazy. It was so intense, so close the entire time. Obviously, each game had a 10-round limit, and so that means in 3 games in a best of 3, the most rounds you can have is 30, and most games were ending well before the round limit. But my match with Moo, there were 29 rounds out of 30 possible rounds, which is absolutely crazy. So the moving game was down to the wire. I was losing until the final round. And then the no move in the NMPZ, again, super, super, super close. Just came down to the very end. The no move came down to the round limit. I think it was a Philippines round, and then I don't know. It was just absolutely nuts. But I ended up losing. Again, I won the moving game, and then the no move and NMPZ were so close, but I lost them both. So that was just super heartbreaking because the annoying thing is that I felt like I was playing super well in those first 2 matches, and I got nothing out of them. There was a round against Moo, especially, again, I'll talk more about the rounds specifically later, but there was a round in Eswatini where I had basically the 5K, and I moved off of it because it was like a border location. I was like, it's too risky to guess here. I shouldn't do this. But there were a couple moments in those games that I regretted, moments where I came so close to winning the match and still fell short. So, yeah, basically, I come out of my second game, I'm 0-2, and I'm thinking, oh my god, like, this is rough. Like, I have to win my final match against CG. Like, I have to win it. But since I played well enough in the first 2, it was in my hands because the tiebreaker was like overall game score, and then after game score, it was like head-to-head record against your opponents. Basically, the situation was going into match number 3, I had to beat CG, obviously, because 0-3 guarantees me 4th place. But if I did beat CG, I was actually guaranteed 2nd in the group. Because there would have been a 3-way tie between me, him, and Moo, and I would have won on the tiebreaker. So I'm going into this match, and I am panicking. And obviously, I'm panicking the entire time, right? Because, like, you guys saw, I'm sure you guys saw on the camera, right? It comes through how nervous I am when I'm playing these games. Like, I look stressed, okay? So everyone in chat and everyone else is like, Jesus, like, this man's gonna have a heart attack. Like, so I'm not afraid to really kind of show what I'm feeling. And I was obviously super, super nervous. But going into game 3, I was much more nervous than either of the other 2 because it was like everything is riding on this game. And the more I thought about it, the more stressed I got because it's like, oh my god, 2nd place is like I go to day 2 with a chance to win the tournament and I qualify automatically. I don't have to play any other matches for qualification. And if I end up 4th place, I'm out. It's over. I get to sit on day 3. I get to sit out and watch the rest of the tournament, knowing that I'm not going to be back here again, and just like despairing over the guesses I could have made, or the things that could have gone better for me on the previous day. And it also matters because it's just like my motivation for this game. Like like, so much of my motivation to get better is like, you know, things on the horizon, things I'm looking forward to. It's like if I have a tournament to look forward to in September, it's like I want to keep getting better at this game. Like, I don't know, there a lot of it, a lot of my motivation rides on sort of what lies ahead, if that makes sense. So much of this, and also prize money, obviously, like much higher prize money if I finish in a higher place in the tournament. So basically, it's like everything is riding on this match. It's like a huge deal. And CG knows that too, and it's kind of the same deal for him. And he gets third place if he loses, not fourth, but he doesn't necessarily know that. So he's basically coming into this match also thinking this is a must-win. So anyway, we go into our match, and I clutched it out. I played so well, and he didn't play super well. I think in that match he was pretty disappointed with how he played, pretty visibly, and that was understandable. There were some guesses he made that, you know, definitely weren't the best guesses he's ever made, but the guesses I made throughout that entire day, to be completely honest, were really, really good, and I was super, super happy with how I played. So I clutched it up. I won 2-0 against CG. Fairly convincingly, and that was just, I mean, that was a huge weight off my shoulders. Not to go 0-3, it just meant everything, and to be able to advance to not only to the World Cup, but to the semifinals of the tournament just meant so much. So yeah, and then I gave a little interview afterwards at the desk, and I just like, yeah, I mean, I guess I expressed how much it meant to me, and just like thanked everyone for just the support, because again, like I said, I would not be here without you and without all the support from YouTube and everything else, and I meant that. So it just meant everything to me. So I was so glad I was able to get a win in the end, after having played so well basically across that entire day. So we went on to day 2, and I basically, well, day 3 I guess, but day 2 of games for me. And I was in the semifinals because I finished second in my group, and I played Orlando, who was first in the other group. And I was thinking, okay, Orlando's a good player, of course, but like I could beat him. I think I beat him 4-1 in my dual series. Like, he's a good player, but in my mind, he's beatable. And like, you know, I have a lot less pressure on myself for day 2 because, like I said, my main goal going into the tournament was to qualify for the World Cup, and that's something I'd already done. And so everything else kind of felt like a bonus. But what I wanted to avoid was embarrassing myself on camera, you know, making guesses that I'm not proud of for the world to see, if that makes sense. And I also think that day 3 had a lot more viewers than day 2. So basically, I go into this match against Orlando. It starts out really well. I win the first moving game, and I win the first no moving game. I'm up 2-0 in the best of 5. I've got a moving game coming up. Everything's like, oh my god, I can totally do this. Like, this is totally within my hands. And then, yeah, it just fell apart. Completely fell apart. And this is what I was worried about. Again, I did what I set out to do, but it hurt to make guesses that bad on camera. I guess, you know, you never want, you know, this is like a high caliber tournament, and like, you know, I just want to, I want to play up to the standard of everyone else. I want to make guesses that I'm proud of, and in the first day I did a really good job of that, I think. But especially in games 3 and 4 against Orlando, I made a couple guesses that were just really, really rough. There was a Yukon round where my first thought was Yukon because it was obviously Yukon, and then somehow I was looking at the trees and I was like, wait a second, are these the trees you find in like Newfoundland and Labrador? And I completely psyched myself out and decided to click Labrador for some reason. Just completely boneheaded mistake. So that was the beginning of the end. And then the moving match was so close. Sorry, the no moving match, number 4, was so close. It was basically tied going into round 10. And we got an easy Sri Lanka, and I just panicked, man. I just blanked. And I was like, I saw poles with holes in them. I saw like a landscape with red dirt or whatever. And I thought it was Thailand. And I didn't even think. Like, this was like the most basic thing. It's like, I can't. It's like, I normally don't make mistakes like this. I don't know if it's because there was less pressure on me. So I was like less locked in, less focused, like just kind of nonchalant or something. I'm not sure what it was, but it's like, right when I needed to think of the right thing. I just couldn't think of the right thing, and I made such a horrible error. And it cost me the game and the match, because he went Sri Lanka, of course, but he was in the wrong part of the country. If I had just clicked Sri Lanka, I would have won. That was all it would have taken. But yeah, I messed up when it mattered most. But what I can say is that I'm so glad I played well on day 1 and badly on day 2, because if I had played badly on day 1, I never would have made it to day 2. So, like, the fact that I was able to lock in when it mattered and accomplish the goal that I wanted to accomplish meant so much. So yeah, it was a really rough ending, and I think I probably took it worse than I should have, because again, I accomplished what I was wanting to accomplish from the start, but I came out of it in kind of a bad mood, because it was just like, I can't believe I made guesses that bad in front of everyone. And, it just, I don't know. I hold myself to a high standard, I guess, and I just, I wanted to do everyone proud, and it was just a really kind of an embarrassing way to go out for me. But I don't want people to think that I'm, ungrateful, or like, like, obviously I'm so grateful, and I'm so glad that I was able to participate in something like this, and I recognize this is an opportunity that very few people are able to have. So I'm so lucky, and I do acknowledge that. It's just so easy to get frustrated with myself after making bad guesses. And, those of you who've watched me for a while know that I have a very easy time getting down on myself when things don't go my way. It's just kind of the way I am. So, yeah, anyway, I'm not super proud of kind of how I acted and felt after the events of the second day, because it was just like, I don't know, like, I played well overall, and it's like I made a couple of blunders, but at the end of the day, I really am happy with the tournament result, and yeah, and glad to just have been able to be there. So anyway, I lost to Orlando in the semifinal, and it's like, that sucks, because it's like he was beatable. I had my chance, and I screwed it up. And then I went to the third place game, which was against Fao, who had lost to Jinji. And again, I beat him in the moving game, so like, I did uphold my reputation as a strong moving player. I think for the entire tournament, Rainbolt was basically hyping me up as like the guy who's good at moving, the guy who's good with information. He was saying a lot of that, which I must give him a shout out for that, by the way, because in the past, Rainbolt has been very down in general on, moving and just the general play style that I have, which is very different from the play style of most players these days. And in the past, he's been kind of negative towards that, and I have to give him credit, because he really sort of, I think, showed a lot of respect for the way I play, which I appreciate, because again, that's not something I get a lot of these days, and I gotta, yeah. Basically, it means a lot to me that the way I play the game, even though it's a minority, is still appreciated to some degree in the community. Because, yeah, it's, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what else to say, but it's like, yeah, it feels like moving is kind of a sort of a lost art and a dying thing in this community these days, just because of the direction the game is going, and the fact that people who watch competitive GeoGuessr would prefer to watch No Move in NMPZ, because it's more fast-paced and more exciting for a casual, or a spectator who doesn't know as much about the game. People don't want to watch like 3-minute moving pinpointing stuff. Like, that's not, for me, that's a fun way to play, and it is just as important a skill to test as anything else. But at the end of the day, in a competitive setting, it's just not as exciting for people to watch. So that's kind of why moving is sort of dying, and it's a super sad thing for me. But again, to see that there's still some respect and some appreciation for my playstyle, I guess, meant a lot. So anyway, shout out to Rainbolt for sort of pushing that. It does actually mean a lot to me. So anyway, yeah, I won basically every moving game. The only one I lost was the one against Orlando, where I sent Labrador on Yukon. So that was a bit bad, but the rest of the time I upheld my my moving prowess reputation, I guess. And then, but I guess, so I won my moving game against Fao. It was the best of 3 for the third place, and all I had to do was win one of the NM or the NMPZ, and again, couldn't do it. And it's like, It's okay, because like he's obviously an insane player, and I do expect to lose to him most of the time in those modes. But again, a couple of guesses I just wasn't that proud of. The NMPZ was just complete chaos. Like the first round was, the first round was Puerto Rico, and he went NMI, and that was the second time that it happened this tournament on an NMPZ round. And it was just crazy that the lightning basically struck twice. And if that was round 2 or round 3, I win, right? Because multipliers happen. But since there were no multipliers in that round, it went to round 2. There was a round that was in Turkey that was really, really difficult. I was thinking about Turkey. I ended up sending Spain, so I lost almost all my points there. And then there was a round in Thailand where I sent Colombia, which was just inexplicable and unforgivable. It was not as bad as the Sri Lanka blunder, but it was still like, I can't be making mistakes like that. But at that point, I didn't really care about the result. The third place match didn't mean too much to me, so it's like, at that point, it was kind of like whatever. But yeah, that's basically the brief rundown of the tournament. Again, I'll go back over my guesses in a separate video where I like actually watch the VOD back and look at the rounds themselves and talk about sort of what I was thinking in those rounds. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was a wild ride. It was a roller coaster. The emotions, especially on the first day, were just crazy. And I was, yeah, at the end of the day, I was really happy with how I played on day 1 and really sad with how I played on day 2. But overall, just looking back on it, it was an incredible experience. I'm so grateful to have had it, just to be able to be a part of this amazing community and take part in tournaments like this. And it's just, it means the world. It really does. And this, yeah, I mean, it's just the greatest thing to have everyone behind me and to have this community. It's just, yeah, you know, other stuff is just difficult sometimes, other walks of life, and to be able to come back to this and have all this support and all these amazing people to sort of just lean on and talk to and have fun with, and to be able to go to an event like this and meet all these wonderful, wonderful people is just, I'm so lucky, man. I'm so lucky to have this. I really am. So yeah, I'm so grateful basically to everyone who has supported me and allowed me to get to where I am now. And it was, yeah, basically it was a wonderful experience. And I'm so glad to be coming back in September because, yeah, it's just my favorite place and these are my favorite people, and that's all I can really say. So, yeah, that's about all I have to say about this tournament, but it was a blast, basically. And, yeah, this video was obviously going to be unedited and a little bit scuffed and whatever, but hopefully you guys found it interesting enough to hear me talk about it. And again, keep an eye out for the follow-up video where I actually analyze my guesses in more depth. But yeah, for now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you all for watching, of course, and I'll see you again very soon.